My jaw is still over the floor that Michael Keaton's Batman might return in the upcoming Flash movie. That makes me smile bigger than the time I was dosed with Joker's laughing gas. But what's the best way to utilize Keaton's Batman? Well, let's discuss. Michael Keaton's Batman is an icon in the superhero genre, paving the way for a lot of modern superhero movies. So it's exciting to know that Keaton might once again dress up in the cape and cowl. And I think there's a very specific way the DCEU, or Worlds of DC, or whatever they're calling it now, should use the character. In this video, we'll break down exactly how that should happen. First, it's important to have a little refresher on Keaton's Bruce Wayne, as it's been close to 30 years since we last saw this particular character on the big screen. 30 years, that's insane. Let's hop in our trusty time machine and go back to examine Keaton's original movies and what it did for the Batman character. I think it's safe to say we all have a good idea of who Batman is, right? He's the brooding, troubled billionaire who dresses up like a bat to fight crime. But you might be surprised to know that Batman wasn't always perceived this way on the big screen. In fact, you can mostly thank Keaton's Batman and director Tim Burton for establishing Batman as a darker hero. Because sure, back in 1989, Batman had plenty of darker comic book stories, but the casual audience member only had the classic Adam West Batman interpretation. And yeah, Adam West made an amazing Batman, but that particular franchise was silly and campy. Like, it's hard to imagine that version of the character appearing on the big screen today. Well, now I just can't stop imagining Batman vs. Superman, but with Adam West's Batman. Never mind, moving on. So when Tim Burton arrived in his spooky coffin-shaped limo and pitched Warner Brothers a darker gothic version of the Batman character for the big screen, it was seen as a big gamble. But obviously audiences responded well to this new version of Batman, and Burton's film laid the foundation for darker, mainstream blockbuster superhero movies, as well as the inspired all-time classic Batman the Animated Series. So how was Keaton's Batman received? Well, the answer may surprise you. You know how it's commonplace now to complain about casting and sign virtual petitions online when we don't like something? Heck, that's the whole reason we have the Snyder Cut now. You might think that that's a modern thing, but people have been complaining about superhero casting since the very beginning. Only they had to do it without the internet. When Michael Keaton was first cast as Batman, Warner Brothers received tens of thousands of letters in the mail protesting the casting decision. Nobody believed Keaton, who at the time was primarily known for comedies, could pull off the character. Of course, everyone was proven wrong when Keaton absolutely rocked the role. There were so many great aspects of Keaton's Batman. Not only was he suave and mysterious and a little quirky, he also carried around with him a lot of pain and suffering. It was a brilliant blend, and it's why he's still considered to be one of the best Batman actors. Batmen? of all time. The second point would be the explanation of what his role in the new Flash movie will be. Because of his age and the reports that he'll be like the Nick Fury, this will go into how he's primed to take the Batman Beyond type role within the DC universe. This will talk about what Keaton's Batman would be like personality-wise and what he could teach the Flash. It would also discuss how this small role can set up a more permanent position in different movies, and talk about if he'll be crossing over into our universe or we just revisit his own universe. After Batman Returns failed to outgross its predecessor, Warner Brothers decided to reboot the Batman character with a different, lighter tone and director. Keaton decided not to return, and Val Kilmer took over the part. This seemingly closed the door on Keaton's Batman Forever. Get it? Batman Forever? Ha! And although you would see a stray meme every now and then, asking them to make a proper Batman Beyond movie with Michael Keaton as an older Bruce Wayne, I don't think anyone actually expected the actor to ever return to the role. Especially since in the last few years, Keaton has gone through a bit of a career renaissance, playing other Bird characters like Birdman and of course, playing the Vulture in the MCU, and apparently in Sony's Venomverse. But then just recently, the bomb dropped. News broke that Keaton is in early talks to reprise his Batman role for the new Flash movie. What? Come on, universe, you can't be serious. It just seems too good to be true, and calling it unexpected is an understatement. For many years, Ezra Miller's Flash movie has struggled to get off the ground and cycled through writers and directors at an alarming rate. One thing has always remained constant. The plot of the movie was going to be Flashpoint, which is the story about how Flash messes up the timeline by going back and saving his mom from being killed. As cool as that sounds, the story remains in one universe. But with news of Keaton's return, it looks like the Flashpoint movie is not only going to explore time travel, but also the DC version of the Multiverse. Because let's be clear, reports that Keaton is in talks to reprise his exact role from the Burton timeline, and not just another version of Bruce Wayne that looks like Michael Keaton. And that makes me so happy. It makes me want to dance with the devil in the pale moonlight. And yeah, if you don't get that reference, you need to go back and watch Keaton's Batman movies ASAP. So how would this whole crazy situation work? Well, by all reports, the DC Universe looked over at the MCU, and they realized that they need their own type of Nick Fury. You know, someone who could have a small roles in a lot of movies and connect the main heroes together. And who better to do that than Batman? Obviously, at 68, Michael Keaton is a little too old to be front and center fighting major Justice League-style threats, but he's the perfect age to take on a Batman Beyond type role where he mentors younger generation of heroes. And it's easy to see how this would play out in the Flash movie. Barry would try to travel back in time, but accidentally wind up in Burton's universe, blowing the multiverse theory wide open. The Flash would find his way to Bruce Wayne, but find an older, retired Keaton instead, and the two would begin a partnership that would see Batman helping the Flash get back to his own world. Adopting famous storylines or comics is difficult. There's always tweaks and changes that need to be made in order to keep both the story fresh and to keep the audiences surprised. It's pretty clear now that the Flashpoint movie won't be a direct comic adaptation, but that isn't a bad thing. In fact, the DC Universe is in a great position where it can merge their adaptation of Flashpoint and Batman Beyond into one cohesive story, and that sounds downright awesome. In the original Flashpoint, when Flash screws up the timeline, he finds an older Thomas Wayne Batman instead. This version of the character was bitter, darker, and way more traumatized than our Bruce Wayne, and that's really saying something. The story saw Flash helping this Batman out of the darkness and restoring a bit of his humanity. With Keaton's Batman now in the mix, presumably in the place of Thomas Wayne, the core of Batman's Flashpoint story can remain, with Flash probably convincing Keaton's Batman to come out of exile or retirement. Because after all this time, I would expect Keaton's Batman to be alone and isolated from the world. Sure, he would still have that classic Keaton wit, but there would be even more pain inside of him after all these years, and it would take someone like the Flash to coax him out of his funk and get him back into being the hero we all want him to be. And of course, while doing so, Batman could teach Flash more about what it means to be older, more experienced superhero. So here's the big question. What universe is Keaton's Batman going to stay in? At the end of this Flashpoint adventure, will everything return to normal, and Flash returns to our Prime universe and Keaton stays in the Burtonverse? Or will something happen that merges the Burtonverse with Flash's main universe? Meaning that there would be a Keaton Batman and a Batman that once looked like Ben Affleck existing in the same universe. Okay, so here's what I think is the most logical, elegant solution. Maybe at the end of this Flashpoint movie, some Speed Force mumbo-jumbo will happen that results in Keaton's Batman transferring over to our universe permanently and replacing Ben Affleck's Batman. That way, story-wise, you can still have Keaton's older Bruce Wayne interact with a lot of DC characters and handle Ben Affleck's departure from the Batcave eloquently without raising, too many questions. Is that a convoluted way to work around Affleck quitting the role? Sure. But it also fits story-wise and would give us much more Keaton's Batman in our lives, which is something I'm never gonna say no to. And then once Keaton's Batman is established in the main universe, that could springboard future movies where he continues to act like a mentor to the Justice League. And of course, if he's popular enough, which I'm sure he will be, he'd be given a much larger role as time goes on. There's also talks about a Batgirl movie in development, and Keaton's Bruce Wayne would be a perfect side character to help train a young Barbara Gordon in becoming a crime fighter. Now, as Keaton's Bruce Wayne said to Jack Nicholson's Joker, let's get nuts. We currently live in a world where there are a ton of Batman running around. You and I as comic fans can keep them all straight. But what about the casual movie audiences who see things like Pattinson as Batman and wonder where the rest of the Justice League is? Or watch Joaquin Phoenix's Joker and question why he doesn't look like Jared Leto's version of the character? Overall, the multiverse can be a confusing place. So maybe the DC Universe should totally lean into the strangeness and establish all the different universes out there. With the multiverse fully established, there's the possibility that we could unite all the Batman actors in one scene. How much would your head explode if Keaton's Batman walked into a room to find Pattinson's Batman there doing push-ups, and before we comprehend what's going on, Affleck's Batman swoops down from the sky in his Superman fighting armor. And then bam, Clooney bat nipples. It seems with DC wanting to mimic Marvel's approach to the multiverse, maybe the way they should go about it is to follow the Spider-Verse, which saw multiple versions of Spider-Man unite to save the world. Can you imagine that, but with different versions of Batman? That would be an amazing way to separate characters like Keaton's Batman from Pattinson's Batman by establishing them as different characters. And hey, if they want to throw in Joaquin Phoenix appearance, why not? Now, I know that uniting all of the Bat actors in a scene together to fight one threat is about as likely as Mr. Freeze traveling to the Sahara Desert for a vacation, but even if it's not gonna happen, with the multiverse being firmly established in the DC Universe, anything is possible. Maybe it won't be as extreme as them all meeting up, but rather just small references. Maybe something as quick as Flash traveling to a different universe and seeing a clip of Joaquin's Joker doing his Murray Franklin interview. Or speeding through a universe that references Bane taking control of Gotham City with the threat of nuclear bomb and turning it into no man's land. It's the tiny references like that that can really unite the entire DC universe together, even if it is in a vaguely loose way. And that all starts with Keaton's Batman and his relationship with the Flash. Talk about exciting. What do you think when you heard Keaton's Batman might make an appearance in the Flash movie? Were you as excited as us? Let us know in the comments down below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button for more awesome content just like this. I heard if you hit subscribe, Keaton, Kilmer, Clooney, Bale, and Affleck will all appear in a Batman scene together. Try it out for yourself!